Welcome to the Stitch People podcast. I'm Lizzie Bean, your host and the founder of Stitch People, where our goal with cross-stitching is to inspire your personal creativity, and our goal with podcasting is to help you make some new friends while you're at it. Today, you are going to make a new friend way across the world. Well, I guess that depends on where you're listening. For me, Claire is on the other side of the world, all the way in Australia. She connected with me on her birthday of all days and failed to mention this until the very end of the episode, where I promptly sing her happy birthday. But I think you're going to really enjoy getting to know Claire. She is a nurse. She has so many interests, and it was so much fun to get to know her and get to know some of the ways that Australia does things differently than we do here in the US. So without further ado, on to the episode. Well, hello, Claire. Thank you so much for being here today. It is so nice to see you and meet you face to face, and I'm really looking forward to chatting. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you? I've been so looking forward to getting to chat.
Oh, good. Likewise. Yeah, I was nervous when I started reaching out to people about, like, we're doing a podcast. Does anybody want to be interviewed? I was nervous nobody would want to do it. So I'm just grateful that, we've got volunteers like you who are happy to hop on and chat for a while. Where are you located, Claire?
I live in Canberra, Australia.
Oh, okay. Oh my goodness. So we are like connecting across time and space right now. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's 3:30 p.m. for me on Friday, the 19th of November. What day and time is it for you?
It's the 20th of November, 9:30 in the morning.
Oh my goodness. Look at that. It always blows my mind. Like, you're in the future. You've already finished November 19th. I'm like running behind you. Like, wait for me, Claire.
Yeah.
I'm coming.
It's sunny here. Join me on the 20th.
So November, is it summertime for you? Springtime?
It's spring. Okay. I mean, you wouldn't know from the weather. It's rainy and cold at the moment. It's typical for Canberra at this time of the year. But everyone's getting ready for summer Christmas at the moment.
Summer Christmas. That's great. It's so interesting to me how people's experiences can be so different. I mean, not only from, in the US, where you've got people in Southern California or desert Arizona celebrating Christmas in December in the desert versus, you're up in New England, Northern Territories, it's dumping snow. But, on the other side of the globe, it's just full on summer for you, which is just kooky. It's crazy. And then I saw something on the internet too, where it's like, did you ever think about how people in the US and people in Australia, like, we're literally on opposite sides of the planet so that we see the moon upside down from each other.
Never thought about the moon that way.
Me neither. Like, the way you see the craters on the moon is on the opposite side of, like, where we see the craters, because we're literally on the other side of the planet. It's crazy. Well, tell us a little bit about your family, Claire. Do you have kids? Do you have pets? Do you have a partner?
I don't have any kids yet. I plan to soon have a partner and 2 dogs and a turtle.
A turtle? What's your turtle's name?
Yeah, Turkleton.
Turkleton. Yeah. I love that. And tell us about your dogs. I have 3, so I'm obsessed.
They are 2 rescue dogs.
Yay.
They are big and silly and love cuddles. They're currently... It's Saturday morning here, so my partner's sleeping in and the dogs are on the bed. They are, I wonder if I just have a cat. They love to sleep on the couch.
They both are sort of a multi.
Like brindle.
That? Brindled is brindle. Yeah. Are they just kind of mutts? Just amalgamation thing?
We did that embark where you can find out your dog's DNA. And one of them is mostly like super mutt.
Yeah, ours got super mutt for 10% of her DNA was super mutt, where it's so mixed that they can't really tell.
Yeah, and the smaller one, Daphne, she's part Kelpie, Staffy, American Pit Bull Terrier. She's a nice mix.
She's got a bunch of stuff. Fun. So you said they're rescue dogs. Did you adopt them when they were quite young? Was it from a shelter or an organization?
So in Canberra here we have the RSPCA. I think you
Okay.
probably have something similar.
Yeah.
And my partner had them for a long time before I met him, so I've sort of adopted
Oh,
them.
I
In
love
the last
that.
couple of years. They're
Bonus.
about 8 or 9 years old now.
That's a good age. Slowing down, but not.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a point where when dogs age, they kind of aren't themselves anymore. And at least in our experience, we have one that's 12. We have 12 and just about 11, and then about a 7-year-old one. And none of them have, they're all still pretty much themselves. You know, they have arthritis and they're a little slower than they used to be, the older two, but we still see their personality shine through. So that's good. Hopefully you have a good long time with them.
I hope so. They're both still very energetic and love walks.
Good. That's the best. I love it. And Turtleton? Turkleton. I love it. What a fun household. Have you always been like a pet person? Did you grow up with pets?
Yeah, we grew up. I have 3 older brothers, and we always had pets that were sort of our responsibility, like guinea pigs and rabbits. We also had a family cat and a dog.
Oh, I love that. I had a couple hamsters growing up myself. So 3 older brothers. So not only are you the youngest, but you're the only girl?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh boy, I bet you have a lot of fun stories growing up.
Yeah. Oh yes.
That's great.
A lot of sort of more typically masculine sports and things. But yeah, I would so here's my cross-stitch.
Yeah, I was going to say, here's my question is, I would imagine having 3 older brothers, you didn't necessarily have any siblings who were leading the way or leading the charge on arts and crafts in the house. So how did, do you have any other family members who were crafty and taught you anything? Or how did you come to be a cross-stitcher, I guess is the question.
My mum taught me when I was 12, and she's very much been... she's a lot like me in general. Like we're not super artistic, but we love to give things a go and like to pretend that we can be crafty and make something.
It seems to me there's no pretending at this point. You're just in it. Surprise, you're doing it.
Ooh, I suppose so.
So your mom was a cross stitcher. That's great. I love it. Was cross stitching something that you continued to do from your childhood into adulthood, or did you take a big gap like a lot of us? That's what I did. Life gets in the way.
Pretty consistently have been doing it. I always have had a project on the go, and I might put it down for maybe a month or so, but then I'm always coming back to it. And I don't think there's ever a point where I stopped for like years or anything like that. It's always something I've really loved to do.
Good for you. Oh, I admire that dedication. I feel like, I don't know if it's just time or my focus, like if I get too distracted, or I don't know what it is, but I definitely have a tendency to put something down and all of a sudden it'll be like 6 months is gone and I can't remember where I left off, all that kind of stuff. So to be able to continually plug away at things, I think is really, really admirable. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah,
so how did you? Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Like myself, I don't feel like I'm myself if I haven't been working on something like that week or even that day.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. What is it about it that makes you feel? I don't know. I guess I would assume like connected to yourself, or what is it about stitching or crafting that makes you sort of feel authentic?
I don't know. I feel like I can have like an obsessive part of my personality that I just really like to have something and be doing it to feel normal.
Yeah. Like always have something that you're thinking about and planning and making and seeing progress on. It's definitely
yes. Yeah, that's probably the big thing, progress.
Yeah. It's almost habitual. Like I feel like a lot of people thrive on having, I don't know if it's the routine or the habit of something, but weightlifters, they're always looking to add another 10 pounds, or like crafters are always looking for another new technique or a new project, or runners trying to shave a few seconds off their mind. Like it's nice to be able to have something measurable, right? Day by day. Exactly. I love that. So how did you find Stitch People?
I think probably similar to a lot of the stories I've heard. Like for a long time, the only cross stitch I knew was like to buy a kit and to work on that.
Right.
And then after a while, I sort of discovered Etsy. And then I'm like, I'd really love to make like custom something for like wedding gifts. And so I just started Googling, and of course Stitch People came up, and I kept sort of coming back to it. I'm like, yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I think
Perfect.
I could do that.
Yeah.
So I bought the book and just dived in.
I love that. Good for you. Congrats on the tenacity. I love that. And how nice that you already had something in mind, like you were wanting to make some gifts for people, celebrate some events, and that it could tie in with something that you already enjoyed doing and just doing it in a different way. That's great. Serendipitous.
Yeah. And now pretty much I haven't done a kit I can't remember the last time I bought a kit and did it. I've always, either now been able to find something I like on Etsy and bought the pattern, or been able to make something for myself, which feels like an accomplishment.
I love it. I love that. Do you know like how many Stitch People portraits you've made approximately? I don't know if that's
that's a good question. Probably somewhere around 30.
Wow.
Not a huge number.
That's pretty significant. That's great. I mean, you never know. Some people it's like, oh yeah, I've made a couple for myself and friends and family. And some people, especially people who are doing commissions and stuff, they're like, oh yeah, I've made like 100. It's like, wow. So I feel like 30 is significant. That's great. Was it, tell me about your first experience with making your own portrait. Was it kind of what you expected it would be? Was it more difficult or easier than you thought it would be? Tell me about kind of how it all went down.
I use a Stitch Sketch app.
Oh, nice. Okay. Is that one on the like a iPad or tablet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I think it's like $7 or so Australian.
Oh, awesome. Okay. That's not so bad.
And I'm not the best with technology, so my boyfriend had to help a lot. Like I would draw and
so
I'm
nice.
like, I don't know how to delete this. So the first one was a bit slow, and almost copied directly from one in the book, like minor adjustments.
That's why they're there.
Yeah. But now I feel like I could just sort of glance at something in the book and be like, oh, yep, and I could do them pretty quickly now.
Yeah. You sort of get in a groove with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So definitely the first couple were a bit of a process, and I leaned on my boyfriend a lot. Like, what do I do now?
It's nice he could help you out. Was it just sort of the like transferring it from what you saw in the book and what you knew you wanted your pattern to be like to the tablet, using the technology, learning the app, just sort of the learning curve there?
Yeah. It was probably mostly learning the app and how to cut and paste or make things mirror reversed or all that sort of just little technology.
Good for you for digging in. I feel I always have like a resistance towards technology like that. I'm pretty tech savvy, but it's always like when I'm approaching something new, I always know it's going to feel that way, where it's foreign to me and it's not intuitive. But if you just like give it the time that like you'll learn it, you'll be able to use it more, it'll be worth it. But it's hard.
Yes.
It's so hard at the front end. I love it. So do you do any other crafts, or do you just stick to cross stitching?
And I've done like cross stitch has always been the main one, and I'll sort of do little side projects and try something new. A couple of years ago I learned how to crochet.
Oh, nice.
And I've made quite a few gifts and things, lots of blankets, and a lot of things similar to cross stitch, like long stitch and tapestry I've tried, and random things I've tried beading, but I've never been felt as accomplished or quite like I was as good at those things as I feel like I am at cross stitch.
Yeah. Beading. Tell me, is beading like just jewelry making, or is there a specific type of like, what'd you do with beads? That's cool. Sounds interesting. I didn't get very good at it. I was trying to make a bookmark and I think I made like half a bookmark. Oh, cool. Like like those kind of flat, they lay flat. Like you said, like a bookmark. Yes. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Cool. Interesting.
Yeah. And there was someone who was teaching me who was trying to learn themselves. So I think we both got a little bit confused. And I would start off like you can use like a needle and thread, and you almost like sort of sew them together in sort of pattern. I mean, I'm sure there's 1,000 different types of beading. I was never very good at it. I didn't try it very long.
That's okay. Sometimes I've become a firm believer in just knowing yourself and letting that be enough. I will say to Spencer a lot, because I'm one of these people, I'm very curious just naturally. So I tend to, even if I have like, I don't know, a gut feeling, and my gut's usually pretty spot on about if I want to do something or not, or something's a good idea or not. But even still, I'll then deconstruct it to make sure that my gut choice is the right choice, kind of a thing. And I looked at Spencer, this was just last night. I looked at Spencer, I was like, when does my gut just get to be enough? Where I'm like, no, my gut says no, let's move on. And I'm trying to get better at that, because I do think that's legit, that like you try something, and if it doesn't resonate, if it's something that's like just too frustrating or doesn't come naturally to you, not that you shouldn't practice at something if you want to get better at it, but there does come a point where, you know, with like beading,
I gave it a shot.
Yeah, exactly. I gave it a shot. It's not my thing. Even with like books, you know, if it doesn't resonate, you don't have to finish the book, you know, just move on. True. You mentioned you were making a bookmark. Are you much of a reader?
Not as much as I would like to be. I usually have like a book on the go, but it will take forever to read. Most of my spare time I will do cross stitch, and I will listen to an audio book or a podcast, or be watching TV with my partner.
Right. Same. Do you have any particular genre of books or audiobooks that you tend to enjoy?
Audiobooks, I tend to like whatever is the popular thing, like when Girl on the Train, Gone Girl.
Oh, yeah.
I listen to those.
I think podcasts. I read Girl on the Train. Now that I saw the movie too, but I think I also read it. Back, you know, it was a few years ago, right? That it was popular. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I would not have remembered that if you hadn't mentioned it. Yeah. That's great. So oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I really get into it. Like I'll be cross-stitching and listening to a story, and I get really into the story even more than if I was just reading it.
Yeah. I find sometimes with concentration, is this true for you, where because I'm engaged in something like cross-stitching, it's not that cross-stitching's mindless, but it keeps my hands and the like monkey mind occupied enough that I can actually listen better and like almost pay attention better?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. There's something about it where otherwise if I were just trying to just listen, my brain would start like kind of going through to-do lists or like thinking through other things, and I wouldn't be listening as much.
Yeah, that's definitely it.
I bet that's true for a lot of people. A lot of people listening to this are probably like, same. It's like all our busy hands cross-stitching all the time. I love it. So have you gifted a lot of your portraits to family or friends? And have you had any particularly standout experiences of that nature?
Yeah, I think most of the ones I've made as gifts, and I'm always nervous giving something to anyone. And my thing when I give a gift is like, I made you something, you probably won't like it. And it's just a thing that I say, but they always love it.
Yeah.
The thing that always surprised me is when so many of the times I've gifted a Stitch People portrait, and people actually tear up. Yeah. And I find that emotional for myself. I'm like, I wasn't expecting it to, I knew I was trying to make something meaningful, but
right.
You would feel that too. One that stands out recently, I made one for our cousin's wedding, which was the wedding was earlier this year, so it was several months late. I posted it to them, and my cousin's wife called me, and they did a video chat, and she was just in tears, and she just absolutely loved it. And she's like, you picked the colours and the church, and it just made my whole day, made my year.
I love that. And it's so nice to, because sometimes, I don't know if you feel this way, but when I'm doing a custom portrait, especially one that's significant, like a wedding or whatever, and as the creator, I think we all take a lot of pride in looking closely at photos or looking closely at things and like trying to notice the details and pick them out and put them in. And it can be so gratifying when the recipient notices all the things that we noticed to put in there. It's like this reciprocal thing. So, oh, that's so nice. I'm so glad it went over so well. And that was just this year. So probably a nice culmination too of like, years of trial and error and things that you with your design skills and all that too. So that's great. I love it. So Claire, tell me, is there any subject now, and maybe it's cross-stitching, which is totally fine. I remember asking this to someone and she said, yeah, probably just cross-stitching. Is there anything in your life that just absolutely lights you up more than anything else that you could talk about on hours on end, and probably people would be saying, can we please talk about something else? But you're not even sick of it yet. It's just like your thing. Not everybody has something like that, but I always like to know, just in case somebody does.
That's a great question. It probably would be cross-stitch.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think like when I'm at work, like there's a couple of other people who cross-stitch.
Oh,
and
fun.
Like, people will come to me. I've taught a couple of people how to.
I love that.
But like in general, I'm often someone who, if there's a subject that interests me, I will learn the heck out of it and I will talk about it until the person I'm talking to is sick of hearing about it. It could be anything. It could be like the Titanic or World War II or just any random topic. I will watch the documentaries. I will find out as much information until my brain's like, that's enough on that topic.
I tend to be a little bit that way myself. It's funny you mentioned the Titanic because Spencer, there's this joke between us. Every couple years he gets on a Titanic kick. And I don't know why, some years not and some years yes. But some years when the anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic, all the documentaries come out and everything, he'll just like dive in because there's always something. I feel like there's always research happening and they're always taking the little submarines down there and checking stuff out and more information every year. But yeah, we tend to be this, especially Spencer, will just like laser focus in on something interesting. You mentioned World War II. Can you give me like a very brief history lesson of Australia's involvement in World War II or not?
Yeah.
Because when I think of World War II, I don't think Australia, but I mean, that's just a blind spot, I think, of my knowledge of it.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that Darwin, so like the northernmost sort of capital city in Australia, was bombed also by the Japanese in World War I. Yeah, along with, of course, Pearl Harbor.
Right.
World War II. Wait, which war am I talking about?
Pearl Harbor in the U.S. was World War II.
World War II.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, around the same time.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Which was really significant for Australian military history.
Right.
Australia and New Zealand are sort of like partnered history with military involvement.
Oh, interesting.
And we would ally with England.
Sure. Okay.
Australia was a very young country at the time, and it's actually really a significant identity thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. To be able to like have have Australia kind of have its own military presence, a kind of up with the big kids in World War II kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Interesting. See, this I didn't know.
Attack on Darwin, bombing of Darwin, just looking up what year that was.
Yay, Google.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'll be sitting, we'll be out to dinner, have a friend over, and we're debating something and it's like, why don't we just Google it? We can find out right now.
Yeah. So the bombing of Darwin was 1942, 19th of February.
Oh, wow. Okay. So February 40. So yeah, that would have been just like 2 months after Pearl Harbor. Interesting. Yeah. Oh, well, there you have it. You learn something new every day.
And Australians like to take credit for having some significant roles in a few sort of key battles.
Sure.
That they talk about. Yeah.
I'm sure. I just, We like, surprise, surprise, I learned the United States version of World War II. You know what I mean? So
completely understandable.
Everything's through that lens of being the big USA. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But that's fascinating. I think Australian history is really interesting to me because like you said, because it's kind of new, because it's the way Australia has really just found its own footing away from the UK over the years. I don't know. And I feel like I know it's a dramatization, but Spencer and I watched The Crown on Netflix, and they talk a little bit about like the British territories and all that kind of stuff, especially in the beginning of Queen Elizabeth's stint as queen, and that those things were a lot more important, or a lot more it was a lot more solidified. The association was a lot more controlled at the beginning kind of her reign, and it's since become a lot more independent, I guess. Is that true? Is that accurate?
Yeah. Australia is pretty independent, but we really like the Queen.
Yeah.
They say Australia won't be officially independent until Queen Elizabeth II passes away.
Yeah.
Like, effectively, we feel like we're our own independent country.
Yeah. I have friends in Canada who say the same thing. It's like, oh yeah, no, we're our own thing, but we really like the Queen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're
we wouldn't want to offend her.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Because she's like everybody's grandma, right? At this point, exactly. Like everybody just loves her. I'm fascinated by the royalty. I think it's a very interesting, especially in this day and age, a very culturally fascinating thing, that it's how it's continued and how the monarchy exists, with parliament and all of that in the UK. I think, it's just so interesting that, kings and queens are still a thing. Royal lineage, what have you. So fascinating. Yeah. So
it's another thing I find interesting, but then it also is not entirely like, do we need it anymore? I don't know.
Exactly. Same. And my sister, she lived in London for a while and told me that some of the younger generation, like millennials, I guess, but, everybody's kind of like, yeah, do we really need it? And wouldn't be sad to see it go. But the older generations are a little more just entrenched in the tradition of it and the respect of it. And that's just a really interesting dynamic that, in the US, we don't have that. So we're fascinated with the UK with all of their British royalty. So anyway.
There are so many other things. Like the Hamilton musical.
Yeah, we've got Hamilton. I had a friend post about Hamilton on Instagram the other day, just that she was listening to it and used to be obsessed with it. And I realized I hadn't listened to it in a long time. So I put the soundtrack on and was like, oh man, it's so good.
It is so
good.
And it's so new to a lot of us in Australia. It's only just in the last 12 months or so come to Australia.
Really? So do you have, I don't know about how COVID is going down there or anything, but do you have the opportunity to see it at all? Is anybody putting it on?
Yeah, so it was on in Sydney for quite a few months until we've had a pretty big current lockdown. So I had to stop. But at the time, it was the only place in the world running Hamilton.
Oh, wow.
Was in Sydney. But it had to stop for a bit. And they're just starting back up.
Did you get to see it, or will you have a chance to?
I did back in March or April, and I'm going again in February.
I love it. Well, you're going back, so I'm assuming you loved it too.
Yeah, it's so good. I love it.
It's so different. I love that. I have to admit, I was a late adopter. I really wanted to not like it because, I don't know, I'm like, can it be that good? I didn't know. So I hadn't listened to a whole lot of it. And then we visited my sister in the UK. We went to the West End version of it. And I was absolutely blown away. Absolutely blown away. And I'm actually really glad that I didn't listen to the soundtrack much ahead of time, because watching it, I was able to be surprised by a lot. Just like, didn't expect that, or like, what a song, And I remember the song Satisfied that. And so for those who don't know, there's a scene, there's a wedding, and the older sister sings, a toast to the younger sister in her wedding to Alexander Hamilton, and she sings through her experience of like meeting him and them and all of it. And like, it is the most powerful song. Like, just the vocally, it is very vocally challenging, and musically it's just a really interesting concept, the way she tells her story. And I just remember just like tears. I was just so impressed. It was so stunning to me. So
yeah.
Anyway, there's a subject I could nerd out about for a long
there we go.
I love that. Do you have okay, we're on it. I'm just going to lean in. Do you have a favorite character in the show?
Maybe Burr. I think he's just so bizarre.
Aaron Burr, yeah. I always said to Spencer that he would play a good Aaron Burr just because he's so even-keeled. He's so level. He's so calm, kind of. Very reserved character. I really like the George Washington, the interpretation of George Washington in that show and all his songs. Do you have a favorite song?
Probably what the combined one, Helpless, Satisfied.
Oh, yeah.
How they go together.
Yeah. It's brilliant. It is so brilliant how they do it. Well, I'm glad Australia's got Hamilton finally. I didn't realize that it came in a second wave over there.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Massive second wave, yeah. And I think it's taught us things about American history that we didn't really know. I think all Australia mostly would know is that George Washington was the first president.
Right, yeah.
How we got to that point is explained a bit in Hamilton, and that's interesting.
Yeah. The American Revolution I find to be very, very interesting, and there's a lot of parallels with like weird issues we're facing right now, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. And it's just I don't know. I won't go so far as to say history repeats itself, because I do think people can learn lessons from the past. But there seemed to be definitely a real interesting, almost like a vortex of people and thinking and like minds and goals and like right time, right place kind of stuff that happened there, to succeed, because it's really, it shouldn't have worked. But it did. Yeah. So were you, tell me more about where you're from. Were you born and raised where you're at, or have you moved around different places of Australia?
Yeah. My dad was in the Air Force, Australian Air Force.
Oh, neat.
So my 3 older brothers moved around more than I did. My parents are from Newcastle.
Because you're the youngest, right?
Yeah.
So by the time, yeah.
Yeah. So by the time I was like starting school, we were basically settled here in Canberra.
Okay.
And so when I was in primary school, my dad left the Air Force and settled here in Canberra. So I pretty much have lived here most of my life. I did move to Queensland, sunny, beautiful Queensland, for a couple of years. But there's this thing about Canberra that people often move away, but then move back. Really?
Like that's a common thing?
Yeah.
What is it that brings people back?
I think Canberra in Australia has this bit of a reputation for, like, people outside of Canberra think that Canberra isn't this great place, and which makes us think that. And so we go other places, and then we're actually like, Canberra's pretty great. Why did I leave?
And that's really interesting.
Have family here and grew up here.
Yeah. Where, okay, will you sort of explain geographically where Canberra is on the island of Australia?
It's about 3 hours drive south of Sydney.
South of Sydney. And that's on the east side?
Yes. Okay. And slightly inland.
Okay.
It's an hour or 2 drive inland.
Interesting. I feel like Salt Lake City and Utah in general has a very similar reputation in the States, where Utah's like, it's just a very family-oriented state. Like, it's not San Francisco or LA or Chicago or New York, it's Salt Lake.
Yep.
And the pioneers went there and established it. And, it's Utah. And a lot of people in Utah, there's this perception that like, Utah, Idaho has a similar reputation of just kind of like, Utah, Idaho, boring. So a lot of people leave, and then a lot of people come back because it's kind of great, and it's it's easy to live here. Taxes aren't high. People are nice. It's clean. Like there's a lot of good things. So
Yep. Sounds very similar.
yeah, it's not a bad thing to return home, right? That's okay. There's something to, especially if it's a common thing, then, friends and family nearby assuming it. So that's great.
Yeah. My parents live just a couple streets over.
And you said it's only like a 2 or 3 hour drive from Sydney?
About,
Okay. Which, I mean, Sydney's like the big city. So
yes.
Cool that you can be in a close enough approximation that like, yeah, you could go in for a concert or a show or a fun thing, but you don't have to necessarily have the big city life and the cost of living in a big city and traffic and all of that. Yeah. Interesting.
You pretty much nailed it. Yeah.
I love it. Well, like I said, I get the sense that the way you talk about Canberra, is that right? Yeah, is exactly how people talk about Utah. Like, well, everybody leaves, but then they come back. There's something to it. So that's great.
Yeah.
I love that. Now, you mentioned that you have some cross-stitching friends at work. Tell us what you do, what you do for a job.
I'm a nurse, which is interesting during pandemic times.
Yeah. Tell us more about that. Do you have a specific specialty? Are you at a hospital or a doctor's office?
Yep. I work at there are a couple of hospitals here, but we sort of have one main one, the Canberra Hospital.
Okay.
It's the prime creative name. I work in like a theatre department, which hasn't been hugely impacted by COVID, but I'm probably like second or third line.
Is that like general surgery? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So you're assisting on all sorts of procedures and taking care of surgically patients with surgical needs mostly. Is that right?
Yeah, I look after them post. So
okay.
Just after. So,
okay. There you go. And is that like mostly, I don't know what's like appendix things and just like your general, or does it get specialized and interesting, or do you tend to see the same stuff over and over and over?
Yeah, Canberra is interesting in that we are not quite big enough to have like ultra specialized hospitals. So we do get a bit of everything. We get kids, we get obstetrics, we get emergency stuff. It's funny you mentioned appendix. I looked after 2 people yesterday post
interesting
appendectomies, orthopedics.
Okay.
Trauma. We get a big variety here, whereas like in the biggest cities like Melbourne or Sydney, these would be in different hospitals.
Sure. Right.
They have different recovery rooms. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. We get a big variety every day.
Well, that keeps it interesting, I guess.
It does. Yeah.
Do you work long shifts?
Not as long as people tend to think. They don't like us doing the longer shifts anymore. People get too exhausted. So I mostly just do 8-hour shifts, occasional 10-hour shift. Yeah.
That's good. I hope more industries go that direction. It's not safe. It's not safe I feel like it's not safe on any job to be pushing yourself into 10, 12, 14-hour shifts. It's not good. Humans need rest.
And that's why they stopped. There are some people who really like the 10-hour shifts, and they had to really push to be able to keep them because management were like, oh no, people get too tired. You start getting past 10 hours and people start making mistakes and things like that.
Yeah. So how long have you been a nurse?
About 10 years.
Oh, wow. Do you still enjoy it as much as you did on day one?
Oh, that's a good question. I still get a lot of fulfillment.
Oh, good.
But, it certainly feels, maybe just because I'm getting a bit older, it's more exhausting than it used to be.
Right. Yeah, I bet. And tell me, you said COVID's been kind of interesting, but not super impactful. Have you, I guess, since you're not necessarily like the COVID unit, it's something that if you screen for it, you can send them to a different department, or how has that worked for you?
Well, one of the sort of broader things, like Canberra has been super lucky. Like for ages, we didn't get any cases or many cases at all.
Wow.
We've only had like experience what the rest of the world is experiencing in the last few months.
Whoa.
Yeah, well, we've had to, like, where ICU was filling up and things, but now there's, the last I heard, there was only one COVID case in our ICU.
Oh, good.
So we just haven't seen that many. But then there's been a few things, like, because a lot of our cases we get, like surgeries in general, are people from New South Wales.
Oh, interesting.
So the state that surrounds ACT, Canberra. And with the border closed, a lot of our workload actually decreased.
Oh, because you weren't getting as many people from across the border, as it were.
Yeah. So we were kind of impacted in an odd way.
Yeah.
But then we would get the occasional person who had been diagnosed with COVID or was suspected, who we had to do, like, we have to do the full PPE and personal protective equipment and cleaning and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, I see, how nurses and doctors and medical staff are impacted all over the world. And we've been very lucky here.
Right. Well, and if I recall, Australia took a lot of precautions at the front end of COVID, right? With like locking down and quarantines and things like that. I would imagine that was helpful to really just nip it in the bud. Do you think that helped, or has it just been an isolated area?
I think it helped us prepare, and because the population of Australia is quite spread out, the spread initially was quite slow. But I think we were still sort of blindsided a couple of times, like in Melbourne in particular, and a recent outbreak that happened in Sydney, New South Wales, that a lot of didn't feel as prepared as they could have been.
Sure.
But yeah, overall we've been really, really lucky in Australia.
Interesting. Yeah, it's fascinating just to see, the different choices that are all over the world, and the different impacts that's having. So when you mentioned that you've got coworkers who cross-stitch, is it other nurses in your unit?
Yes.
That's so much fun. Do you stitch at work? Do you take breaks and stitch together?
Occasionally, sometimes in the tea room. We often, we'll just show each other, like, pictures of what we're working on, things like that. But sometimes we'll bring something to work and be working on it a little bit in the tea room. It's very occasionally, I hope my boss doesn't hear this, on night shift, if there is absolutely nothing happening,
right,
I'll do a little bit.
Yeah, gotta keep your mind busy so you don't doze off during your break.
Yeah.
I love that. That's very cool. How neat to have common interests and fun things to look forward to sharing with your coworkers, more than just work. That's always helpful. I love that. Yeah.
And one of my friends at work who cross stitches, I've got her onto Stitch People.
Yes.
She asked me to design one for her, which I'm happy to do. So because I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, that's nice.
Made her a design and she stitched it up. Made her a pattern and she stitched it. And then she since bought the book and she's making her own.
Oh, good. I love that. I love that. You could help each other, and it's like Stitch People community in real life off the page. I love that.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that.
Making my own Stitch community.
Yeah, that's right. Just like one nurse at a time. I love that. Oh, well, Claire, time has flown by. We are sort of to the end of our little episode here. Before we say ta-ta, I would love to throw some favorites at you and just relate with you on a favorite things level. So we'll start off easy. Do you have a favorite animal?
Good question. It would have to be a dog, right? They're just they can be in your home. Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of interesting animals in the world, but how many can sleep on your couch?
Man's best friend. I endorse that answer very much. Do you have a favorite stitch that you like to do in cross-stitching?
Oh, I love it when I get a French knot just right. It's so satisfying.
There's no better feeling. Yeah.
Yep.
Just to nail it. That's a great answer. Do you have a favorite DMC like floss color?
Oh, good question.
I don't know that I could pull a number out of, like off the top of my head, but some people can. So
The only one I know off the top of my head is like 310 black.
310 black. Yeah, I know. I feel like the ones that I know are all Stitch people. Like I know 945 is my go-to Caucasian skin color. I know that 3712 is my lip color preference. 310's black. So not that those are my favorite, but they're the ones, the numbers I can remember. Yeah, I love it.
I feel like I got them all. Like this one's quite nice. 224. It's pretty.
Nice pink. Yeah, I love it. Claire, do you play any instruments?
No, I wish. No one in my family is particularly musical. I did try guitar.
Oh, yeah?
For a bit. There's no natural ability in any kind of musical sense.
Well, I do remember you mentioned athletics earlier. So do you have a favorite sport instead of a favorite instrument?
Or to watch, like rugby union.
Oh, yeah.
To play netball. Netball's really big here.
Interesting. That's cool. What is netball? I don't know that I know.
Netball is, I guess, to watch it be kind of similar to basketball, except when you get the ball, you catch the ball, you're not allowed to move.
Oh, interesting. Okay. At all, even if you're like dribbling?
Yeah, so you can't.
Okay,
you
can't do that. Okay,
dribble.
Okay.
Yeah.
I imagine Americans would be very frustrated with that rule.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to be able to go. Lots of passing, I guess. But more teamwork.
Yes,
that's great. I
teamwork,
love that.
passing, and the net doesn't have a backboard.
Oh, okay. Oh, tricky. Yeah. So no bouncing in. Okay. I'll have to look up some YouTube videos or something.
Yeah.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure who has passed away, who would you choose?
Oh, I've always thought I would really like to meet Freddie Mercury.
I love Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, I've been a massive Queen fan.
Are you? Oh my goodness, we should have led with this at the beginning. Spencer gave me a little Freddie Mercury action figure for my birthday last month. He has all his like joints articulate, and the thing had different hands and faces that you can swap out. So you can make it look like he's singing or like holding a mic. It's amazing. It's amazing. Awesome. I love Freddie Mercury. Did you see the movie Bohemian Rhapsody?
Yes. Watched it a couple of times.
Same. I think I've seen it like 4 or 5 times because it's so good.
Yes.
It just makes me feel a lot of things. I love him. Yeah. Oh, can I come to dinner when you go to dinner with Freddie?
Definitely. 100%.
His story's so great. Like he just it's truly like that, that classic like rags to riches. Like he comes from this immigrant family and his first job was at Heathrow Airport as a bag guy, and then he's like the most recognizable rock star and like
and he's just so unapologetically himself.
I really admire people like that who can just be so confident in who they are with no like you said, no apologies. I love that. This one's a little obtuse, but some people have a favorite smell. Do you have a favorite smell?
Oh, at the moment, we have a Christmas candle, and it is gingerbread house scented. Oh. And I always love the smell of ginger.
Yeah, that'll get it. That's nice.
I love coming in the house.
Yeah,
it smells like Christmas. Maybe Christmas. Christmas would be. If Christmas was a scent.
Yeah, if Christmas was a smell. Well, everything about Christmas smells good. Like you said, ginger, cinnamon, like pine. If you have a Christmas tree, or all those nice wintry smells. Hot cocoa. Okay, well now I have to ask. Do you have a favorite Queen song?
Yeah. It's not the most famous one, but "Good Old Fashioned Lover Boy." Is my favorite.
Okay, I'll take it. I think Killer Queen is my fave. I do know Good Old Fashioned Lover, but that's and that's one thing I love about Queen is they span, like they just do whatever they want.
Yes.
They have so many different styles of songs. It's very fun. Very cool. Well, Claire, thank you so much for your time today. It's been so fun chatting with you and getting to know about all of your likes and your job and your life over in Canberra. You know, it's always fun to make friends across the world, quite literally.
Yeah.
So
it's been so fun. It's my birthday today, and I thought it'd be so cool to talk to the author of my favorite book.
Claire, you should have said. You lead with that. Okay, well, now I'm going to sing to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Claire. Happy birthday to you. Everybody who's listening to this in the future, go back and wish Claire a belated birthday when you listen to this episode.
Thank you. That's so kind.
Thank you. Thank you. Sneaky of her, the birthday thing. I'm serious. She should have just led with that from the beginning. What a treat, and how cool that she would spend some of her birthday with me. It was a delight to chat with her, and I hope that you enjoyed getting to know Claire as much as I did. Thank you all so much for listening to the Stitch People podcast today and enjoying conversations with Claire and other Stitch people like you. I would appreciate it if you could take a moment, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a rating and review. And if you'd like to be on the podcast, go to stitchpeople.com/podcast and look for the link to a form that'll let us know you're interested. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, let us know. Send us an email, info@stitchpeople.com. We always love to hear from you. You can check out all that Stitch People has to offer on stitchpeople.com and connect with us also on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. Post your works in progress. Tag us in your portraits. We'd love to see what you're up to. Lastly, I want to thank all of you in the Stitch People community for your support of us and, more importantly, your positive and cooperative encouragement of one another. That's what it's all about, friends. I'd also like to thank the Stitch People team for making all the magic happen behind the scenes. Our fully licensed jazzy tunes were created by Jonathan Boyle, and our sound designer, wizard extraordinaire, is the one and only Brandon Yost. Have a wonderful day, my friends. Happy stitching. The Stitch People podcast is a production of Beanski LLC and Stitch People. Copyright 2022, all rights reserved.